of smell.
One of the foundations of exhibit design for the Arctic Ring of Life is that the bears would be up high. Bears have such an incredibly strong sense of smell. They rely on their sense of smell. They can smell things for miles. And we wanted the bears to be up high so that they have nothing blocking the wind on any side. So everything that the bears experience and know about, they're picking up when they're standing up on top of the hill. They're getting smells from all over the zoo, from all over the community, really. And you can tell when the bears are walking, they walk with their nose up.
Still, while polar bears are the largest of all land predators, they are in fact considered marine mammals. And any accurate simulation of their domain also needed a third habitat, Arctic Sea. Adjoining the pack ice habitat is a massive 300,000-gallon saltwater ocean habitat. This Arctic playground is kept at temperatures ranging between 45 and 65 degrees, and even comes with 300-pound icebergs manufactured daily in the exhibit's custom ice machine. Here, the zoo faced an unexpected problem. These zoo-born bears had never experienced the wild, and were actually afraid at first to get in the water. The salt water is also a new taste. The first few encounters made their stomachs upset, until they learned that it wasn't for drinking. Still, the zoo wasn't done. They knew for the bears, swimming was just the tip of the iceberg. Now, they had to give them something to hunt. First up, live fish.
This is the way that we get the fish, the live trout that we keep from this building where they live, out in Square's pool, where they don't live very long. This is where the trout live. We buy locally raised trout in Michigan. We grow them up for fairly small fish, and they live in this tank until it's time for them to make the trip over to the bite and go out to the pool.
Still, fish aren't the bear's primary prey. That's a 250-pound seal. So to keep things natural, Ron Kagan and Scott Carter put them in the tank too. But to ensure that the polar bears don't attack, the tank is divided into two habitats, separated above and below the surface by a combination of simulated icebergs and 4-inch thick acrylic glass windows. This allows the bears to watch the seals, just as they would in the wild, while allowing the seals to swim protected and stress-free. As for the public, they get an authentic underwater encounter unlike any in the world, made possible from the depths of the polar passage.
When the public goes through the polar passage, and they're surrounded by 300,000 gallons of chilled seawater, and they're surrounded by seals, and they're surrounded by polar bears swimming within inches, literally get nose to nose with polar bears. That's something you obviously could not do in the wild. If you did, first of all, you would freeze instantly. Secondly, you'd be eaten. We've been able, through this, to really give the public an opportunity that no amount of money, no kind of courage could get you to this same kind of place.
It's the only place in the world you're going to get a view like that.
In October 2001, the Arctic Ring of Life opened and sent shockwaves through the zoo world. After 7 years of planning and construction, Ron Kagan and Scott Carter's vision of the largest, most naturalistic zoo polar bear habitat in the world was realized. In fact, soon after, other zoos were even offering to send their polar bears here to give them a better life. Coming up, Ron Kagan and the staff give themselves the ultimate challenge when they try to introduce a wild-born polar bear to the habitat. How will it stand up? That's next on Ultimate Zoo. In 2001, Detroit Zoo opened the Arctic Ring of Life, the largest polar bear habitat in the world. Designed to be a perfect simulation of the bear's Arctic environment, it was currently home to 7 polar bears, as well as 6 seals, 4 Arctic foxes, and hundreds of visitors daily. Like in the wild, here the bears have to work for their meals. In the tundra, the bears can forage for an assortment of browse, produce, and bones, all of which keepers must continually distribute and hide throughout the habitat, so the bears remain on the hunt. They'll even bring in a bucket of live fish for the freshwater pool. Food is also spread out in the pack ice habitat. But here, the real hunt is in the water, where the bears can prey on fish both living and frozen in a long-lasting fish sickle.
We'll be taking these ice treats to the pool for the polar bears. This is what you call a fish-sicle for the polar bears, made out of herring and capelin. They like to manipulate these objects, gives them a chance to use their teeth and claws to get at the fish. It's also a nice play item for bears to enjoy.
But keeping the polar bears on the prowl for their other prey, the seals, was a little more tricky. To maintain the illusion that the polar bear and the seal habitats were one, it was essential that the glass acrylic barrier between the two habitats remained crystal clear. To clean the glass, keepers must enter the underwater habitat in a special dry suit that protects them from the ice-cold pool, while they use special underwater vacuums to clean the entire habitat. But for Detroit CEO Ron Kagan, the ultimate goal was still to come. He also saw the Arctic Ring of Life as the optimal sanctuary for wild-born bears that couldn't be returned to their natural environment. And the first bear he hoped to save was Berla. Orphaned as a cub in Manitoba, Canada, Berla had been sent to Europe for a life in the circus. 16 years later, she was being forced to perform in the utter squalor and extreme heat of a Mexican circus traveling through South America. It was a life of misery, and it was amazing she still was alive. Then, in March 2002, Ron Kagan got his chance. The circus had set up shop in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. Seizing the opportunity, Ron and a team of other zoos and conservation agencies pressured the U.S. government to block the circus from leaving. Sure enough, after a thorough investigation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service found ample reason to rescue Berla. And soon, Berla was on her way to the Arctic Ring of Life. The only question now, after years of abuse, would Berla be able to bounce back? To the zoo's dismay, after months of one-on-one integration with the other bears, Berla was slow to acclimate to this naturalistic habitat. But then, it snowed.
The first time that she felt snow here, she loved it. She was rolling in it, playing with it. Wouldn't come inside for a couple days because she just wanted to stay out there in the snow. It was great to see her interact with an environment and snow just like that, like a normal polar bear would.
In June 2004, Berla's world got even bigger when the Detroit Zoo introduced a new male named Norden. Born in the wild, he, like Berla, has unique genes and will help create greater diversity in the captive gene pool, which will strengthen the polar bear population in generations to come. Now, the zoo hopes they will actually mate. The Arctic Ring of Life was born from a mandate to create an exhibit that allowed polar bears to act as in the wild with plenty of mental stimulation. The zoo succeeded, and in doing so, brought new life to zoo polar bears, the Arctic Ring of Life, making this ice-cold kingdom a real hotspot on our tour of Ultimate Zoo. Coming up, volatile weather and an unforeseen design dilemma put this zoo and its staff to the test. That's next on Ultimate Zoo. Animals that roam the African savanna are accustomed to a warm, stable environment. But how does a zoo located in a subarctic climate adapt to these warm weather animals' ever-changing needs? For Calgary Zoo, they would create an exhibit that could be modified accordingly to both volatile weather conditions and unforeseen design limitations.
When we started off, we really wanted to achieve two goals. First of all, to give the public a truly unique African immersion experience. And second of all, we had to make sure the animals would have all of their needs met in an environment that was suitable for them and really portrayed them as they really are.
Don Peterkin is the zoo's director of operations and oversaw the building of this highly versatile indoor-outdoor African savanna exhibit. It is home to over 14 different species. Outdoors, the African plains have been recreated in a 3.1-acre roaming area for giraffes, zebras, and ostriches. Indoors, the 22,000-square-foot facility is highly adaptable, with an 80,000-gallon hippo pool right next to a giraffe den.